Behind the closed doors of the Soviet Union, where personal space and possessions were rare, and everyone worked for the nation's greater good, the 21st Volga was born. Throughout history of Soviet Union, there were only a few cars that stood out, and Volga 21st was the most iconic and famous among all of them. Volga 21, a car that not only defines the test of time but also holds a special place in the hearts of those who remember its enduring legacy in the Soviet era. It's a true weekend car, though it can certainly handle some aspects of modern driving, but with a few quirks. Like any car over 50 years old, it has its moments, and to drive this car you certainly need to have some muscle. No brake or steering assistance here, just a good old-fashioned muscle workout. This isn't the ride to take if you expect to come out clean, as it guaranteed to leave you with the smell of exhaust fumes and gasoline. But it's precisely what makes driving this car so alive. The original Volga Gas M21 still elicits the warm feelings and good memories with its timeless appearance. Its design, distinctive stunts, roomy interior with a comfy sofas and reputation for being indestructible have made it a dream car for people of the entire USSR. The Volga history traces back to the earlier Pobeda cars, also known as the victory cars, which were common after the World War II, which had been in production for quite some time but fallen far behind the foreign manufacturers in terms of the technology. To catch up in the automotive industry, Soviet engineers proposed a new chassis with a new solution of automatic transmission, something that just started to get popularity in the States during the 60s. The initial Volga models, which came off the assembly line, were exclusively equipped with the automatic clutch release system. However, this idea proved to be too wet and early for implementation. Consequently, the engineers abandoned this approach, leading to the adoption of a 3-speed gearbox mounted on the steering shaft. In terms of the design inspiration for the 21st Volga, it's thought to be drawing from the Ford Mainline in 1959. And we could see that by extensive use of chrome around the headlights and the bumpers and the interior of the car. What for Soviets was new, for the rest of the world, it was a decade-old technology. Hence we see multiple versions of Volga coming out during the Covert period, and multiple restyling versions were released on the market until the final one you see right here. The Volga was one of the most colourful cars of its time. It had more than 120 different paint colours to pick from, and that was not due to the generosity of the manufacturers. It was mainly because the colours were mixed by eye, and often the people would not get the right shade, and just instead of repainting the whole car, they would just add a new colour to the catalogue. The Volga Thor became one of the most popular cars in Soviet Union, with the production exceeding 500,000. But it was a tough one to get for the ordinary worker. Approximately 80% of all the Volgas were government support vehicles, including taxis, and only 20% of the cars went to private owners. They were mainly known as the taxi cars, but they were also driven by high-ranking professionals, including engineers, doctors and politicians. This car became so successful that it received global recognition and appeared in dozens of Soviet films, travelled to international exhibitions and participated in rally competitions. Volga came off the conveyor on the day when Soviet Union joined the FIA. The Volga made history as the first Soviet car to join international races like the one in Monte Carlo and the rally in Finland. But for the Soviet drivers, reaching the finish line was most they could hope for, as finishing on the podium was out of the question. This is mainly because of the bulky design of the car. It's quite heavy, and an inline 4-cylinder engine with just 75 horsepower struggles to move it confidently, and doing 0 to 60 is slightly over half a minute. Not to mention, it's not great when you try to navigate the corners. The car tends to lean quite a bit. Plus the huge steering wheel with no power assistance is a real challenge to turn while stationary. Even a simple parking maneuver takes 6 to 8 maneuvers. The mechanical brake feels really stiff, making it quite a challenge to stop. But on the good side, the exhaust does sound like a fully tuned Mercedes-AMG. Adding to the quirks, the first and second gear are quite short, whereas the third gear, the car only starts responding to the gas pedal after reaching the 50 miles per hour. This means that when you drive the Volga, you usually have to keep the pedal flat out. However, the charm of driving the Volga lies elsewhere. Of course, the body roll, acceleration dynamics and braking leave much to be desired, but the Volga is probably one of the most convenient Soviet retro car for everyday use in modern realities. The suspension and spring surface really make the ride very relaxing, and on the bumps you simply swing in the springs of the sofa, which by the way is very comfortable. And it's not for nothing that the Volga was called a tank for its scale and weight of 1.5 tons. And this ensures its comfortable operation even in heavy traffic. That's the most typical Volga interior you expect to see back in the day. Here we have the metal and plastic dashboard, the clock, the ashtray, the radio with a chrome frame, but the cool thing about all of it is the glowing speedometer. Underneath it we have the gauges for the amperes, for the petrol, the water temperature and the oil pressure. A reference to the business class cars can be seen in the back row. The back row mimics the sofa in the front. The passengers get the handles and the ashtray, but the main feature of the Volga design is the ability to transform the front sofa into a king-size bed. Those who could afford the Volga enjoy these family camping trips. Another feature of the car is the lack of seat belts. Of course they appeared a few years later and were not mandatory for use. Some of the engineering solutions do raise questions here, especially the combined brake cylinder and clutch tank over there. The brake system here is a single circuit, so if the clutch is broken then there will be no brakes in the car. Well, the problem with the brakes will result in non-working clutch. The boot here is really spacious. We've got the spare tyre which didn't find a better place, the crooked key. Clearly not today. Just didn't help us start the car. The toolbox and the manual. In the Soviet Union everything was repaired by the owners, so after you buy the car there is no dealership for you to go to fix it. Accordingly, in the book you would see technical drawings for each unit and actually describe components and their functions, something that you'll never see in a modern car nowadays. Volga had many modifications and versions to it, and the most prestige and desired among car collectors was the Volga 23rd, which was the secret development of KGB. Externally, the car showed no visible differences to the normal Volga. However, under the hood it had the V8 motor with a 195 horsepower with a 3-speed automatic gearbox doing 0 to 60 miles per hour under 16 seconds, which is half the time of the original Volga. It was the vehicle for chasing criminals and protecting the top officials of the Soviet Union. So KGB kept this technology strictly guarded, and under no circumstances was it possible to open the hood of the car outside the closed facilities. Additional locks were installed under the hood, which the driver could not open himself. Volga is a remarkable piece of automotive history. When it first appeared in 1956, it stood out with its expressive design and well-lit interior, stark contrast to the previously dual and heavy-looking domestic cars. Even today, the Volga remains the believed relic, attracting admiration wherever it goes. One distinctive feature of this type of car, setting it apart from expensive luxury classic models, is the genuine appreciation and respect it receives from strangers. People don't simply admire the Volga's aesthetics, instead they express their deep respect and gratitude for preserving a part of their childhood memories that still runs today. It's common for people to share their personal stories about their past experiences with Volga. This is what makes it truly special, as it represents a dream come true for the entire generation that aspired to own one of these cars, regardless of its modest performance, quality and reliability. While there are numerous vintage vehicles on the road that capture the attention and admiration, only the Volga has the power to transport people back to the happier, brighter days of their youth, making every drive a journey throughout time.